Thank you everyone who's here. We're going to give people a few minutes to join us before we get started, but we'll begin shortly. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much everyone for being here. Good afternoon. My name is Emily Damon, and I'm the chair of the steering committee for Watertown Forward. Watertown Forward is a new community organization that seeks to expand the number of voices in the charter review process through a series of events designed to educate, empower, and engage the Watertown community. I want to thank you so much for joining us today at our kickoff event. We are excited to share with you who we are and why we exist. And with that, I will turn it over to Larry, who will walk us through today's agenda. Larry?
Hi, everybody. Let's go to the next. Thank you. First of all, this event is being recorded so that people who couldn't attend today can watch it. And at the end of the event, you'll see where the recordings will be posted, and we hope that you'll share the information with your neighbors and your friends. We'd invite you to write any questions as they come up in the chat. You see the arrow there. The questions will be collected and answered at the end in a Q&A session. And feel free to also send your comments. If your questions haven't been answered during the presentations today, we'll do our best to get to all of them or as many as we can during the Q&A session. You can also email Watertown Forward after our event today. You'll see that participants are muted throughout the presentation. You can leave your video on or you can turn it off. We also want to acknowledge the elected officials who are here with us today. And we welcome Town Council President Mark Sedaris and Councilors Tony Palumba, Lisa Feltner, Carolyn Bays, and let's see, is there anybody else from an elected official who is with us today? I see Susan Falkoff, who is a former elected. Vinny Piccirilli is with us. Thank you, Vinny, for coming. And I hope we got everybody. And my apologies if we didn't. And Kenny Woodland said that he wasn't going to be able to make it, Town Councilor Woodland, but he will be following up afterwards. And I see John Gannon has joined us. Welcome, John. Thank you. So I think maybe that's everyone. Oh, and John Hecht. Excellent. Hi, John. State Representative John Hecht is joining us as well. Okay, let's go on to the agenda. So each agenda item will be about 5 minutes, and we will have about 15 to 20 minutes for the questions and answers. I see Anthony Donato is here as well. Thank you for that. So you'll first hear about Watertown's Home Rule Charter, and then more information about Watertown Forward itself. After that, Town Council President Mark Sedaris is going to provide us all an update about the Charter Commission and its process. We look forward to that. And after hearing from Mark, we'll turn to your questions and we'll say more about how that's going to work a little later. Following the Q&A, you'll learn more about how a charter reflects community values and guides how we govern ourselves. Finally, we'll wrap up with what's next, how to get involved and stay connected to the Charter Commission process and to Watertown Forward. I'd like to now introduce Councillor Tony Palumba, who's going to present information about Watertown's Home Rule Charter. Tony, are you set up and ready to go?
I think so. Can people hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I had a little technical difficulty, so I had to switch computers on the QT, so I hope that everything is fine now. What is the charter? The easiest way to understand the charter is to think of it as a city or a town's constitution. It establishes the structure of the city or town government, such as a town council and mayor, a town council and town manager, a select person and town manager or administrator. It creates local offices such as town councilors, school committee members, and library trustees, and it distributes powers and duties and responsibilities among the local offices and to the mayor or the town manager. It also establishes and defines procedures to be followed by the city or town government. Everything from how officials are elected and their terms of office to how citizens can affect town government can usually be found in a charter. So you have to consider this as a very important document. What happened in 1980 to the Watertown's charter? Watertown voted to change its form of government from a town meeting to a town council / town manager form of government in 1980. This was done by using the Home Rule Charter process. In 1979, a petition was signed by 15% of the registered voters who resided in the town at the time of the preceding state election. The petition called for the creation of a Home Rule Charter Commission of 9 residents. The question appeared on the ballot in May 1979, along with the names of the individuals who wished to serve on the commission. The candidates needed to get 50 signatures to have their name on the ballot. When the question passed, the first 9 candidates with the highest vote total, were elected to serve on the commission. The procedures for how a Home Rule Charter Commission operates is determined by state law, which, among other things, requires the commission to hold public meetings and prepare a preliminary and final report. A town election held in May of 1980, with the ballot posing the question of whether the voters approved of the new charter as presented by the Charter Commission. The ballot provided a summary of the major changes and a concurrent and minority report. At that election, the residents voted in favor of the town council, town manager form of government and created what we have today, a Home Rule Charter. I should note that there is another way to create or revise a town's or city's charter that does not involve the election of a charter commission. It is the Home Rule petition process that leads to what is often referred to as a special act charter. This process requires the proposed charter or revisions to a charter to be approved by the town legislature, by the Massachusetts legislature. Our charter doesn't speak a lot about the charter itself, but has 2 important pieces. It recognizes that the charter can be changed. It reads as follows. This charter may be replaced, revised, or amended in accordance with any procedure made available under the state constitution or by statutes enacted according with the state constitution. For example, the home rule charter process that was chosen by Watertown in 1980 can take place at any time if there are a group of residents willing to engage in the effort. The charter also talked about periodic reviews. Our charter speaks to that. It states that the town council shall review the charter every year ending in 0 by a special or standing committee of the council of 4 that was amended in 1990 to 6 additional persons appointed by the town council president, and shall file a report recommending any changes to the charter. It is important to remember that a charter review committee does not have the power to change the charter, nor has the power, duties, and responsibilities of an elected charter commission. However, a charter review committee can recommend changes to the charter to the city or town's legislative body, in that case, to our town, in our case, to the town council. To take effect, each amendment must be approved by a 2/3 vote of the town council. Also, residents can propose amendments to the charter via a member of the Charter Review Committee. There has been 3 reviews of the Watertown Home Rule Charter since 1980, in 1990, in 2000, and more recently in 2010, via a Charter Review Commission. The amendments were presented to the voters for approval. The ballot included the details on what changes the town council had approved. Finally, it should be noted that an amendment to our charter can be proposed to the town council by a petition signed by 50 residents, and that amendments can be proposed at any time besides during the formal periodic review. With that, I turn it over to Emily.
Thank you so much, Tony. That was very informative, very necessary. So again, my name is Emily Damon, and I am the chair of the steering committee at Watertown Forward. As I mentioned in the beginning, Watertown Forward is seeking to expand the number of voices in the charter review process. And Watertown Forward began a meeting in August as a group of community members who are interested in engaged participation in the 2020 charter review process. Some volunteers like myself got involved through other volunteer opportunities in Watertown. Others were involved in the kitchen table conversations last summer, where the topic of the charter was brought up by a number of community members. Our group is comprised of newer residents, such as myself, and people who have lived in Watertown for a long time. For some of us, this is the first time getting involved in community initiatives, and for others, their engagement with Watertown governance runs much deeper. Watertown Forward's goals are for more community participation in Watertown's government. We hope to see more diverse voices at the table and at the 2020 charter review process. Watertown Forward believes that government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we see this as an opportunity to shape the future of our local government and city for the next 10 years and beyond. Watertown Forward is not an advocacy group. We are nonpartisan, and we see our roles as an avenue towards greater civic engagement in Watertown. Instead, we are seeking to elevate knowledge in Watertown's home rule charter and enable more public engagement in the charter review process. Watertown Forward is comprised of 3 committees: the steering committee, the education committee, and the outreach committee. Next, I'll turn it over to Sarah, who will give us a more detailed explanation of the steering committee and who we are.
Thanks, Emily. So my name is Sarah. I'll just be briefly introducing the steering committee and talking a bit about what we do. So Emily is our chair. She's studying public policy and business at the Heller School at Brandeis and is also a member of Watertown Citizens for Black Lives. Tony Palumba is counselor at large, serving his 6th term, and was also part of the 2000 Charter Review Commission. Marcy Merningham is a civic educator, scholar, practitioner in remedial law, politics, good governance, and in capital markets. And I'm Sarah. I am a junior at Wellesley College. In Watertown. I'm a co-facilitator of a youth-led group called Uplift Watertown, and I'm also a member of Watertown Citizens for Black Lives and the Sunrise Movement Boston Hub. So the structure of Watertown Forward Steering Committee is basically that we provide overall guidance and oversight for Watertown Forward and this project of bringing in voices into the commission process. So you could think of this group as seeing the project from a 30,000 foot level or just the overall big picture. Now I will pass it over to the Education Committee.
Marcy, are you there and able to tell us a little bit about the Education Committee? Okay, Marcy may not be available right now. Is there someone else? Oh, okay, Marcy needs to be unmuted. Marcy, you should be able to
There, okay, fine.
There you
I
go.
had trouble accessing the Zoom, but thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Larry. Yes, as you can see from the Education Committee, I'm joined by a company of folks, many of whom are from elsewhere, but have lived here for a number of years, ranging from a long time to a relatively short time. Felicia Sullivan is a Watertown transplant, originally from Austin, Texas. She's a member of Watertown Citizens for Black Lives, a lawyer and a mom with 2 elementary school kids. Louise Enoch has been here for 35 years, a retired therapist, local activist, and has run several anti-racism programs for Watertown Citizens for Black Lives, and currently working on police reform issues. Edmund Kay comes to Watertown from originally Uganda, and like many Ugandans who have migrated here, has made a place for himself and his family. He has an accounting background, and he's interested in local politics, governance, and recently launched a home care services called Barode Healthcare. You've already met Tony Palomba. He's our at-large town councilor, and then Lisa Feltner, who's a 3rd term District B town councilor, and joins us today with particular interests in empowering Watertown citizens. Next slide, please. Our goal is to really help fill knowledge gaps that might exist. We know that the town itself is carrying out a formal education process, and we also know that there might be those who don't really understand the context or the content of what's going on with the charter review process. So we're here to try to help fill in the spaces, as well as strengthen voice and agency among Watertown residents who would like to be a part of it, but they feel they don't know enough to be a part of it, or would like to learn what's going on now and the changes that have taken place in Watertown might affect the town's governance in the years to come. And I think this is really a big deal, because even though we only have a few months left in this year, we're really Watertown. I say we, I've lived here for quite some time now. Watertown and Boston are going to turn 400 years old in 10 years. And given all the turbulence affecting democracy and governance at multiple levels across multiple sectors, it's really important for us to understand who we are, what we know, and how we can help each other through a process of inquiry, learning, and develop usable knowledge to really help push this project forward, this unfinished project of forming a more perfect union. So the Education Committee, we seek those who want to help. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nancy Hammett, who is going to talk about how once those of you who are interested in participating, she will help you understand what the Outreach and Engagement Committee has in store for you. So take it away, Nancy.
Nancy, you'll need to unmute yourself, please.
Zoom basics. Sorry, I'm Nancy Hammett. I've been in Watertown for a number of years, involved in environmental affairs and other Watertown activities, and I'm very interested in this project. You've already met Lisa Feltner. Alice is, thank God, a marketing consultant, which will be extremely useful, as well as a social justice advocate and spiritual director. Larry, you've met. He's a member of, both Alice and Larry are members of Watertown Community Conversations, and Larry is a key talent also in terms of facilitating and leading this effort. And Jenna Willis is hiding behind my, but she is our, I can't actually see her title, but it's, she's with the Wayside group, and it's a key
resource specialist for the town.
Thank you. Your face is in the way of my picture of her. And she is a very valuable connection to parts of our community that aren't always as engaged as we would hope they could be in the town kinds of conversations. So this is a great group. We're hoping to expand it and attract other people to join us, and because we think we have a lot of work ahead of us and ambitious goals. So as to the goals, next slide. Emily's already given you a good idea of our ambition to try and really expand and diversify the engagement in this process by the public in this important topic. And so we're the Outreach and Engagement Committee, and that's our goal, is to really figure out how to do that and up our game in terms of public involvement to try and get all voices heard. And that means all ages, all backgrounds, all races, people who've recently arrived, people who've been in Watertown for a long time, people who've been involved before and people who have not, and people of a wide range of views. This is not, you know, we are really trying to enliven the conversation. On the engagement side, part of what we're trying to do is figure out ways not only to get the message out to people and get information out to people, but also to encourage and offer a variety of ways for people to participate, and not just the usual ways that might involve difficult meeting times or difficult technologies or whatever. I mean, this is a tough time to have community engagement right now because of the COVID situation, but it's difficult all the time because we're very diverse and people's ability and preferences in terms of how to be involved vary a lot, and we're trying to sort of up our game in doing that. So next slide. And so our jobs sort of break down to getting the word out, publicizing things, and that we've already attempted in publicizing this meeting to make use of a variety of mechanisms, including the usual email and neighborhood Google groups and the cable access and Watertown News and Watertown Tab and all of that. And we're trying to basically get better and better about getting the word out to a diverse community through the Senior Center, through the Family Network, through various groups, through the faith community, et cetera. And we welcome ideas about how to do that better and help in doing it. And a lot of people did give us help in passing the word, and we appreciate that. And then secondly, to create informal opportunities to discuss the issues and to learn. So we're picturing probably having possibly another round of kitchen table conversations, which were informal gatherings. They may have to be virtual, we'll see, but with hosts to sort of just hear about things and debate. And other possible online formats or in which people can really informally, outside the formal process, learn and debate. And again, we're really looking for creative ideas and how to do that. And we're looking for volunteers to help us do that. So that's our committee. And and I'm sorry, and now we have an opportunity to hear from our town council president, Mark Sedaris, which is great to hear about the town's formal process, the Charter Review Commission.
Thank you very much. Are you able to hear me at this point?
Yes, Mark, we can hear you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, first of all, for putting this together this afternoon. I see we have quite a number of people with us. It's wonderful to hear and see and hear. As you're all well aware, we will be beginning this process on Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock, but it's a very preliminary type of meeting where we do some introductions and we do get some information on what we're actually doing, because there will be people that are not 100% sure of what a charter review committee would be doing. I have not finalized the 6 citizens as of yet. Doing, wrap up interviews and telephone calls. And I appreciate the effort that's going to be made here and to try to get people to join us and educate themselves in the way the town operates. I am a little bit dismayed that we couldn't do this in person. We began this process in January. From the outset at the inauguration, we asked for people to send in their request to be on this committee, which they did. I did many of my interviews before COVID hit, and then we got stuck. As I think has been pointed out, this committee will be asking, and I will, because I'm on the town council, we will be asking the council to allow us to extend this into 2021, because I think it's going to be important that we make sure we're very thorough at this time, because we did this 10 years ago. We kind of went through page by page, paragraph by paragraph, but that's not the essential issue here. And the essential issue is there's a lot of things have gone on, a lot of changes have come over the last 10 years. And there's also possibilities that we could look at maybe having this more formal charter review done on a 5-year basis instead of a 10, or always the form of government is going to be an issue. This is the 4th charter review, and every time we do this, the form of government does come up. So we're going to look like we're going to have very robust discussions about it. We will have plenty of opportunities for the public to speak. It's going to be challenging because we do have a 15-member committee. So we're going to have to be limiting people in times that they can speak, but we will be available by email. We're going to set up some very informative discussion and working together, or maybe some subcommittees that can report back. But I think I'm expecting a very robust discussion, and with your efforts, as I can see by the more than 50 people that have joined us today, we should have good participation. So thank you.
So thanks, Mark, for the information and the update about what's happening from with the Charter Commission. And we want to ask you, just while you have the floor here, the virtual floor, if you could say a little bit more about what's going to happen on the 6th. I know it's a public meeting, or we know it's a public meeting, so people can participate. I also saw that it's a 3-hour meeting. So what do you anticipate happening there, and what will the commission be doing or maybe deciding about, and what's likely to come next?
Okay, well, first of all, we're going to try to keep our meetings to about 2.5 hours. We post them for 3 because I feel that I'd rather have more meetings than longer meetings, because at the end of a day, people have long days. You start losing participation from the public because it gets late. So I'm not sure we're going to go till 9 o'clock, but we may. what we're doing on Tuesday evening is, first of all, introductions. Everybody in the room on the committee will, tell everybody who they are and what they do, because a lot of people may not know each other. Then we're going to be doing a presentation from Lauren Goldberg of KP Law, who formerly worked for the Secretary of State. And she's going to just be touching on some of what Tony touched on, and what happens when you review a charter, what you can and cannot do. And she's going to be available to answer questions from the committee and the general public, so that that's basically what we're going to focus on. And then at the end of the meeting, I'm finalizing some additional plans for subsequent meetings that I'm not prepared to answer at this point. I've done some investigating, and I've had some discussions with quite a few people. Unfortunately, I won't be able to finalize some of the next meeting's plans until Tuesday evening. But we are preparing for some, the last time we did this, we did this mostly on our own, brought in different people. We're looking to potentially have other sources of information come to speak to the committee. And we'll, hopefully I'll have more information on that aspect on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for that. With that, let's transition to Jenna. And Jenna is going to tell us how the Q&A part of this is going to work. So if anybody has any additional comments, we've seen a few in the chat. If you have some additional comments now or questions for anybody about anything you heard so far, please send it in. And Jenna, let's turn it over to you.
Thanks, Larry. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming. My role here today was to gather some of the questions as they come in, because we did have every participant muted for this meeting just to kind of manage, participation in that way. And so I will be your voice. If you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat and I will try to direct it to the best person. Comments are welcome as well. And if you are having any trouble accessing the chat, I know a few people have joined us by phone. You can email forwardwatertown@gmail.com. Again, that's forwardwatertown@gmail.com. And we do have someone monitoring that email now. So if that's an easier way for you to drop in questions, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, throw it in the chat for us. I did want to share a comment, if people did not see it, from John Gannon. So under section 8.1b of the town charter, the council may extend the charter review process into 2021. So that was a note that he wanted to mention so that we don't feel a sense of urgency to rush this very important charter review process. And also that this section 8.1b of the charter reviews to the review panel as a committee and not a commission. Which I did want to mention because I know there was a question about that. So I will throw this question out first. I think, Mark, a couple questions that came in are really best for you to answer for us. What is the difference between a committee and a commission?
Well, I think I would defer to ask Councilor Picciarelli to help me answer that question. If you don't mind, if you would unmute Mr. Picciarelli, I would appreciate that. Because we do have some different context here. If Vinny could help us.
Okay, so Emily, that's going to require.
Yeah, he should be able to unmute now.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Thank you, Vinny.
It's real simple. So the Charter Commission is defined under state law. So, as Tony had mentioned back in 1979, we used the provision of state law to create a Charter Commission. What we're doing here is correct, as Councilor Gannon pointed out, it is not a Charter Commission. It is a Charter Review Committee, because the way our charter is written, it says every 10 years we should review the charter. So it is not the Charter Commission as defined by state law, which we used in 1979 or Framingham used just recently to change their form of government, or Amherst to some other town. So it's a committee for review. So I just want to make people clear that this is not a charter commission where we're starting with a blank piece of paper. This is a review. Our goal is the purpose of this committee is to review the charter, look at what's worked well since in the last 10 years, and what has maybe has not worked well and needs to be changed. So it's more of a review process, not a starting from scratch blank piece of paper process.
Thank you so much, Vinny. And we noticed that Tony had raised his hand. Tony, did you have something to add for us on that question? Maybe not, and that's okay. If you do, Tony, unmute yourself. Feel free to jump in. Thank you. We appreciate that. So a few other questions that had come in through the chat is, what is the committee considering, or how do we find that out? This was asked by Jackie. So Jackie, I invite you to clarify if I don't ask this question as you intended, but I believe that question is asking, what are some of the changes that are being considered to the charter review? And if that's not decided yet, how would one find that out? I believe I'll defer to Mark, but I'm not sure, Mark. You can always pass the torch.
No, I'm going to do my best to answer that question.
Thank you.
Basically, we're reviewing the charter. As I stated, 10 years ago, we opened the first page and started on the first page and went all the way to the last page. And when something of substance came for discussion, we spent 1 or 2 or 3 meetings on that particular subject. I don't anticipate going page by page, but I anticipate the committee will decide. I'm going to ask a sense of the committee to decide what they want to talk about first. I would suggest that one of the things that a lot of the charter would deal with would have to do with the form of government. So I would suggest that the committee may want to start by talking about the different forms of government that are available to us. The one that's most similar to us today is Winthrop, and they're actually going through the same charter review process, and they're considering the forms of government first. Is it, should we be this particular form? Should we be a mayoral form? So I think that's always what comes up when people run for election. They get frustrated and they say, we should have a mayor. So we'll have people come in and tell us what are the differences between the forms of government and why we couldn't, and maybe the committee would want to consider 1 or 2 of those. So that would be where I suggest that we start, but the committee could decide they want to do something different.
Okay, and a question that came in relevant to that is if the committee will meet if not all members have been confirmed.
Well, there's no confirmation process for the members. The charter lays out the process. The charter says the council president shall choose 6 people from the voters of the town, which I'm finishing up by Monday. I will notify those people. Most of them are aware when we are meeting. And, I've had follow-up phone calls with most of the people that I would consider appointing to this committee. So there's no confirmation process necessary.
Thank you so much, Mark. And Tony, I'd invite you to unmute yourself, please. I'm wondering if you can speak to the question, what the process is to select public members for the committee. Tony, are you able to unmute?
The public members of the committee, well, that was what Mark does. I wanted just to speak to Mark's question about what will be discussed. I just want to be clear that if any member of the community, once they've read the charter or looked over the charter, if they see there are things that they'd like to discuss, they could do that through the town president or through any member of the committee can bring up those questions. So I did want to say that there's a way, people should not feel that they are only going to be discussing what the 16 people think. Any resident could suggest something to the committee members to bring up or directly to Council President Sedaris to discuss.
I might say I agree with Tony because that's why there's citizen participation. We will take up any issue, but I do think that we would have I would like to have a starting point, because that may help guide us to other questions and comments that may come from at future meetings. But by all means, if a member has something that we haven't talked about or would like to see discussed, we're more than happy to talk about it.
Thank you. And we do have a few important questions coming in about really how is the best way to get involved. So I'm wondering if anyone on our outreach committee or through Watertown Forward would like to speak to that. How does the public participate in this process? Nancy, did you have any thoughts from our outreach committee on how people might be able to participate?
Sure. This is evolving because we want to try and create a number of ways of participating, and we're looking for people's ideas about how they would like to or can. I just posted a question myself saying, I believe that all the formal official committee meetings are public meetings. So one way is, and an important way of participating is to attend the meetings and provide your comments there. What we're trying to do is also create opportunities, because that can be not necessarily an intimidating process, but it can, it's one thing if you have a clearly formed view and you're ready to get up and argue for it and present concisely that view. But if you're not sure you quite understand, and you're not sure that you know the pros and cons, and I think participating includes educating yourself, and our education group as well as the town's committee are going to be offering opportunities for understanding more about the pros and cons of different aspects of a charter. And then we are going to be trying to create like kitchen table conversations, which are informal ways of getting together with people. And we'll be very interested to hear if people want to be, if you want to be invited to a kitchen table conversation or host one, we'd love it if you'd host one. And other ways of just informally chatting with your neighbors, your friends, and other people you may not have met yet about the topic. So that's the job of the engagement part of the outreach and engagement committee, is to figure out how to draw people in to informal conversation, and then your formal sort of advocacy to the committee ought to be to the committee itself.
If I may add a little bit to that, please.
Say again?
Well, thank you.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Sure.
It's been pointed out, but I want to clearly point out that these are all meetings that are open to the public. We do have to operate by Mass General laws, which dictate open meetings, and we can't have a group of people. The committee consists of 15 people, and we can't have 3 or 4 people going to somebody's Zoom meeting and talking about issues that are going to come before the commission. So we have the committee, so we have to be very careful how the committee members interact with the public. The general, so I want to just make sure that that caution is out there. I don't want people to be discussing things that should be done in an open session. So I encourage kitchen table type conversations amongst yourselves, and welcome you to come to our meetings, but our committee is going to be going over some of the open meeting law issues and challenges.
Thank you, Mark. And a question came in a little earlier just about how to find out about those meetings. Could you just let us know real quickly where all of the links will be posted? I know the town website is one place. Will you be promoting other places?
Well, we will definitely do the town's website. I'm not sure, we may just create a separate link through there. I'm just not 100% sure the best approach to that. I will say we're going to try to inform the people, the general public, in advance of at least 2 or 3 meetings coming up. And I've already said that we're going to meet on October 6th and then October 20th. And so we'll try to let everybody know in advance how many times we're going to be meeting. There may be meetings, there may be months where we meet 3 times a month. I'm not 100% sure. It is an evolving process at this point because this is, again, a challenging environment to have this type of a very important meeting. And in my mind, this is not as transparent of a way as I would like to do this, but we do have to begin the process.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to draw everybody's attention to the chat. Carolyn Bays had posted the charter link for everyone. So that is an excellent way, thank you, Carolyn, to get started with this, is to take a look at the charter and read through it. There were a few questions that did come in about the selection criteria for the committee members and understanding what would happen if there were significant differences in opinions between the committee and the town. So if we could get some thoughts on the criteria for being elected to the committee and that process.
Well, first of all, the charter says that all 9 town councilors are members of the committee, so that would create a majority of its own. The charter also dictates the fact that the council president shall choose from the citizens of the community. As I said, I had a number of questions that I asked each and every member. I asked them if they had questions for me. You know, some of them had more knowledge about the charter than others. You know, and I have to be able to, this is more of a personal type of, having worked with the 9-member council, I have to try to find a group of people that I think will bring maybe differences of opinion and a different point of view. And I have to be able to get those 6 people that I think will work well with the rest of the 9. So the 9 are automatically on, and I can't dictate, I can't change that. But in this particular case, I've done and have been doing the best I could to put a group of 6 citizens together that will work well with the town council.
Thank you so much, Mark. And some of the other questions that are coming in, I'm trying to keep up with the chat. I appreciate that everybody is dropping things in there. And I just want to make a note as well that we are going to record everything that comes in. So if your question is not answered today, we will be gathering all of it and creating a Q&A document that we can share out. So when you get the opportunity to give your email or fill out our volunteer survey later on today, please do so that we can get that information out to you. There were some thoughts being floated around in the chat about how to engage students and youth in local government. That's really exciting to think about, how to get all members of our community involved in this process. And I would say to anyone who's really interested in that, please reach out to Watertown Forward. This is what we're really working on, is to engage the community in this process and provide all the opportunities to do that. There's some really great comments here, again, trying to keep up with. Will the racial and ethnic and economic diversity of the town be reflected on the committee? I do think that's an important question. Thank you, Will. If all of Watertown will really be reflected in that committee. Can anyone speak to that?
I guess I'm the one that's going to speak to that. I'm picking what I feel is a diverse group of people, but diverse, I mean differences of potential opinions. I can only work with the people that applied. We had many opportunities for people to do that early on this year, but I do think that we'll reflect a number of different diverse opinions throughout the community. Anyway.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, I appreciate that. It looks like we're slowing down a little bit on some of the notes in the chat, and I know that we want to have a little more time for some of the other pieces of our meeting today. And again, please send any questions that you have to Forward Watertown if you think of some after the meeting that we can answer for you. Just to kind of sum up, I think one of the Big questions that came in that we didn't get to is the idea of, you know, significant differences in opinion being brought up between the committee and the town. And so I think a lot of what we're talking about today on how to get engaged, how to make your voice heard would be relevant. But if anyone on our Watertown Forward committee has a comment about that question, what if there's big differences, and how do we make sure that everyone's voices are heard in this process?
May I?
Yes, please, Tony, thank you.
Yeah, I do think that that's an important question. And as I said earlier, and Mark reaffirmed, the difference is that you have about a particular question, section of the charter that you want discussed. They will be discussed. And I think that it's important for people. Now, that's not what our committee, that's not what we're about. But I think it's important if people have differences, or if they have a specific issue that they're really strong about, that they should take the steps to contact each of the committee members, express those concerns, to show up at committee meetings to express those concerns, to build the kind of constituency in Watertown that some people agree with them, to pressure the committee. The committee obviously has a final say in whatever is discussed, but those questions then go to the town council. So there's a second area, except an opportunity for people to voice their opinion about a particular case. But just remember that anything that you feel strongly about will be brought up. If you feel like that you didn't get what you, or conversation's not going the way you want, please reach out directly to the 16 members, build up some support within your community, have other people reach out to the 16 members. And then always remember that you should be there publicly stating your case for why you think a particular situation, a particular issue should be addressed in a particular way. And then again, the committee cannot make any changes. The committee makes a recommendation to the town council, and it's the town council who makes the recommendation. So they also should be lobbied if you have a particular interest.
Jenna, this is Larry. I wonder if I could jump in on that to piggyback on something Tony said.
Sure. Thank you, Larry.
So we see part of our role in Watertown Forward and in the committee, the Outreach and Engagement Committee, is to actually do some of what Tony and Mark are talking about, which is to generate some good ideas and some good ways for people who want to talk among themselves and come up with some ideas, insights, recommendations. So I've been to some meetings where, you know, you get your 2 minutes or 1 minute at the microphone. One person goes in, or one person makes one comment to a group of people. We're also looking for some other ways for people, as Nancy and others have said, to talk among ourselves and come up with some common issues or concerns or ideas that people have, and have that be maybe another way to get some of that feedback into the committee. So we'd invite anybody to help us think through how to best do that, and that's part of why we're here. And we've got a few more minutes before we want to turn it over to Marcy and then to Sarah for the wrap up. So Jenna, back to you.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, I was going to wrap up this section too, because I see there aren't too many more questions coming in. The comments really, I appreciate so much, and I know that our group does as well, seeing that a lot of people are thinking about how to engage as many people in the community as we can and make sure that it's really representative of who Watertown is. And just echoing in Larry and some of the other presenters today, that's really what our goal is for this group, to make sure that everybody can and has an avenue to be involved. And just a little plug, if that's something you're really interested in and seeing some of the notes from the chat, it seems like a lot of people are, please share your ideas with us. Join our Outreach and Engagement Committee. We want to have as many people involved in this process and hear the ideas that the community has. I'm just reading right now, thank you. Someone asked about the final approval. Thank you so much, Sue Ellen. I'm glad that you're here. Good to see your name. The question is about final approval and how are the recommendations passed? Does it go for a public vote? If somebody could answer that one for us, please.
In certain cases, the town council will approve. In certain other cases, they will have to go to the voters. And in other cases, other things that would get changed may actually have to go to the state legislature for a home rule petition. So there are a number of things that we're going to cover all of those things at the first meeting on Tuesday evening.
Okay, good. So more motivation to attend that first meeting. Thank you, Mark. I think that for now, I will pass along to Marcy. I want to make sure that we have enough time to hear the rest of what's planned for today. And again, please feel free, even though this section is done for today, drop any questions into that chat. We will answer them separately and we will put everything together for you all and send out at the end. So please make sure you get on our mailing list. Thank you so much.
Okay, I guess this is my signal here. Stepping back and looking at what we've talked about over and listening to what people have had to say over the last hour or so, and thank you all for participating. It's a crazy time. It's especially a crazy moment in our history. Certainly for many of us, our personal history, but certainly our shared political history. And I think a lot of what we're hearing about today, even if it's not expressed in these terms, are what's important to people. And that really does have to do with how do we keep democracy resilient? And a lot of this is about the process of self-governance. This is the process of self-governance. This is a laboratory of self-governance, but it's also a reflection of what people hold to be important. And certainly the procedural values of participation and accountability and responsiveness are very critical. And a lot of the focus has been on that. It has been on issues related to access. It has been on issues related to who's included and how do we keep informed. Today's discussion has also focused on who has standing and the difference between formal meetings that are subject to laws and governing protocols versus the sort of discussions that go on in more informal settings, and where should the decisions be made, or what are the on-ramps to getting those concerns put in the public square. I think for all of us, what we are living through is a process of renewal. And when we talk about values in public life, actually, they're very hard to talk about. Most people run from the room when you say, let's talk about values in public life, because we don't have a real vocabulary for that. Just as we've had to distinguish between committee and commission, you know, the words we use are slippery, and sometimes they scare us, and sometimes they're like bullets, or they can be radioactive and sort of contaminate, much like the toxins that affect our body politic. So today's discussion is really the beginning of, clearly and formally, what will begin on Tuesday, of what are those truths we hold to be self-evident, and how do they make their way into the structures that we create to govern ourselves. And our resilience is really based on an assumption: one, that we the people means power sharing, and two, that we create laws and institutions that learn. And doing that is a constant process. It calls for all of us as individuals and institutions to engage in a constant process of a courageous and constant process of reflection and critical debate and humility, and a willingness to be open to other people's views, and a willingness to ask questions, even if they don't quite fit the frame that you like to have. And I think more important, it's important for our laws and institutions and for we the people to get outside our comfort zones and try to reach across the boundaries, even those ones that we don't know exist. There are many voices that remain unheard. There are many people that don't feel a real sense of agency. And even with a lot of activism and the groups that are going on, the structure of our governance, whether it's local or regional or state or national, is really the result of our own stewardship and trusteeship efforts. We are all trustees. And what we tried to do today is really reignite that sense of trusteeship, of stewardship, because what it's about is a constant process of diligence and effort and learning, all directed toward navigating toward that more perfect union that may never be achieved. But as was said on the same boat that brought the Pilgrims over here in 1620 and also landed and discovered Watertown, on 1630, and discovered Boston and Watertown and worked with indigenous peoples, some of whom are my ancestors, to create a community. The image is a metaphor of a city on a hill. That was expressed on the Arbella by John Winthrop in a sermon that is a metaphor for how we might create a resilient community, maybe even a beloved community, as Dr. King talked about, in which we are all a part, both individually and separately. Our efforts to form a more perfect union, not just in Watertown, but here in the United States.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you for that summary and that those inspiring comments as we set about this work. We want to turn it over now to Sarah, who is going to share with us where we go next and some ways that people can get more connected to what we're all trying to do here. Sarah?
Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Marcy, as well for that summary. So I'm going to be going over what we need from you all, how you can join Watertown Forward, and then just briefly announcing the first meeting on Tuesday and the Zoom link for that. So we would really love for all of you to get involved in the charter review discussions. Spread the word about Watertown Forward and the charter review discussions to your friends, neighbors, groups, communities. We want you to give us your ideas about how we can reach out to all the different communities encompassed in Watertown and how to make it easy, accessible, and engaging. And to do that, you can join a committee and help us up our game on civic engagement. So the charter review process will be happening over the next 2 months, but there is also, as mentioned by Councillor Gannon, an opportunity to extend that process into 2021. So if you want to join Watertown Forward, I'm going to paste a link. This is a Google form, and if you click on that link, you can fill that out, and we will be in touch about which committees you choose. And if you just want to stay informed but don't have the capacity to be involved on a committee, then you can just email us and we will get back to you.
Sarah or Emily, oh, there it is. Okay. Well, there was another slide that had, there you go, for the connecting links. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send one more time the form. This is the link to fill out the form. So fill that out. So, and then finally the first charter review committee meeting is going to be on Tuesday, October 6th from 6 to 9 p.m. and the Zoom link is mentioned there. You can also find that on the town website. And I will just pass it back to Emily if you have any final words.
Let me just jump in quickly for one little point here, so people don't get confused. We are Watertown Forward, but the email is Forward Watertown. So we had a little trouble. We couldn't get Watertown Forward for a Gmail address, unfortunately. So just don't be confused. That is, in fact, the right way to connect to us via email, Forward Watertown. Thanks. Emily?
Yeah, thank you so much, Larry. So for those on the phone, it's forwardwatertown@gmail.com. And if you're interested in filling out the volunteer survey, you can email us and we can give you a link. So if you leave the Zoom today and you forget to click on that volunteer survey link, don't worry, email us and we'd be happy to send it over to you. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We hope that this was informative, and we are really excited to move forward with our work in outreach and engagement in the community. I just want to give a huge thank you to Mark Zadaris and all of the town council members who joined us today, as well as all of you who are very excited about getting involved in the charter review process this year. So thank you again for joining us. And if you have any questions that you think of afterward, then email us and we'll be happy to answer those. And as Jenna mentioned, we will gather the comments and questions that we did not get to, and we'll be answering those. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.